up to firmware 12.40 with P2JB. Now, it seems it still currently has the issue where closing the application after loading the jailbreak will crash the console, so it's really meant to unpatch the Blu-ray jailbreak with this initial release, but I suspect this issue will be fixed pretty soon because it's already been fixed in the Lua exploit, so I suspect that those changes will be applied to the YouTube jailbreak version as well. So we should be able to properly jailbreak up to 12.4T very soon with this, but in the meantime, again, you can use this to unpatch the Blu-ray jailbreak up to firmware 12.0 without requiring Star Wars Racer Revenge or one of those obscure Japanese Lua games. Now you can just use a backup to restore onto the console to get the YouTube application, and then use that to run P2JB and run the Blu-ray and patching payload, and then you can use the Blu-ray jailbreak up to 12.0 to jailbreak with a Blu-ray disc within a few seconds using the older kernel exploit. So that is the big benefit of something like this releasing. Now, I do have a full tutorial that shows you how to use this to unpatch the Blu-ray jailbreak, but since then we've also got the release of a new autoloader version for unpatching the Blu-ray jailbreak. So this one from O&D Swang, so you can go ahead and simply download the backup file here, and then if you restore this backup instead of the one that I used in my video, then when you go ahead and load the YouTube application, it will just run through P2JB automatically, and if it's successful, it will then load the Blu-ray unpatching payload automatically, instead of you having to send the payloads manually with a payloads injector. Just makes the process a little bit easier. Well, that's another thing that has been released, and also we have an improvement in terms of how long it takes to actually load the jailbreak. With the V2 version, it now takes 50 minutes instead of the initial 2 hours. So 50 minutes to load the jailbreak compared to the original 2-hour wait time. That is a massive improvement, especially for people who are relying on this as their only way to jailbreak the console above 12.0. Instead of waiting 2 hours, it's now less than half the time it takes to actually load the jailbreak, which makes a massive difference. So that is a pretty monumental improvement there. So it seems this improvement was originally part of the P2JB implementation with the remote Lua loader, which is the one that uses the Japanese games to run the jailbreak with the Lua save file. So we have this new version from Ballers, and this implementation of P2JB was the initial release that added the cut down time from 2 hours to 50 minutes for loading it. So now if you're using the remote Lua loader with the Japanese games to load P2JB, it will also only take around 50 minutes to load the jailbreak instead of 2 hours. But this one also, I believe, has the fix so that when you close the game, it will no longer crash the console. So you can actually use this as a viable method to fully jailbreak the console up to 12.70, which is fantastic. Not only that, but EchoStretch has also released kstuff Lite version 1.05 with full support now from 3.0 all the way up the 12.70, so you can now use the Lua games, the Japanese games, to jailbreak your console up to 12.70 and then load kstuff Lite, which will allow you to run your PS4 fake packages. And once we have Shadow Mount updated and the dump runner, you'll also be able to run your PS5 game backups as well, up to firmware 12.70. So we more or less have full jailbreak support now up to firmware 12.70, now that we have the release of kstuff Lite. And we have a few other additional updates since then. We also have a new version of the YouTube jailbreak itself from Gejine, adding a number of improvements. This seems to be the same improvements that Gejine added to the Blu-ray exploit, the BD on Jailbreak project, fairly recently, though a couple of days ago. So those changes seem to be getting migrated to the other jailbreak projects from Gejine. So YouTube jailbreak gets this update. Updated laps to 2.0, merges UFM42's kernel exploit PS5 post-jailbreak, all in one shellcode. It also depreciated the PS5 specific kernel offsets and depreciated the GPU read-write. So that's now been added into the latest version of the YouTube jailbreak. We'll probably get updates of the autoloaders to include these changes. Gejine also seems to be working on a new version of the LuaCore exploit with Star Wars Racer Revenge, so version 2.2e, and it seems this version has improved the Poops kernel exploit loading via LuaCore. So from what I gathered, it seems that Gejine has actually ported the Blu-ray jailbreak version of the Poops exploit over to C code, and that seems to be improving it quite a bit in terms of how fast it takes to load, as well as stability and less crashes or kernel panics. So it seems to have been improved quite a bit. And it seems that these improvements are being added into the LuaCore exploit, and we might see them added into maybe some other exploits as well, so we get an improved experience when loading the older Poops kernel exploits, which works up to 12.0. We finally have some information about ETA version 2.6b, so Lightning Mods posting that it is still in the works, and 2.6b will focus on the recent seen advancements. And we also have a screenshot here showing the Run Linux option, so you'll be able to load Linux, it seems, directly from within ETA from, of course, the firmware that it's supported on. It's good to see that ETA hasn't been sort of completely abandoned, because there's definitely been sort of less updates for ETA recently. The latest release is still version 2.5b from December of last year, and it's not been updated since. There are more up-to-date test builds, of course, on the Package Zone Discord server that you can access that do work, I believe, up to firmware 12.0. We also have a complete overhaul of Sonic Loader, the kind of all-in-one payloads that runs a web panel that you can interact with your PS5 with. So Sonic ISO here is saying that Sonic Loader is get a rebrand. It will be called Elf Arsenal, and will have fixes, new cheat engine, and some new features coming soon. So one of the major updates is, of course, the cheat engine that is being added, which will support all the main cheat formats, plus also the trophy unlocking feature is also being added. There was also a trophy unlocker standalone application, also released, I believe, by Sonic ISO, and with it, it seems you can specify what trophies you want to unlock for specific titles, so that when you run the payload, it will run through and unlock those trophies for your games. So that's something that's also been added there as well. So as you can see, some pretty major updates here. You can now properly jailbreak up to 12.70 and run kstuff with the Lua exploit, and it only takes 50 minutes roughly to load the P2JB instead of 2 hours. You have a YouTube jailbreak port that works up to 12.40 and can be used to unpatch the Blu-ray jailbreak up to 12.0, and improvements happening to the previous Poops kernel exploit as well. So lots of great updates here, so hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and as always, I will hopefully see you guys